Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Screen star Ilona Massey in an episode of a short-run series, Top Secret. This is from June 25th, 1950, a package in Tangiers. This is going back, some 72 years today. Massey was born in Budapest. Billed as the new Marlene Dietrich, she appeared in 3 films with Nelson Eddy, including 1937's Rosalie, with Lon Chaney Jr. in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and she appeared in the Ziegfeld Follies. In addition to this show, she appeared in Rendezvous on ABC TV in 1952, a mystery drama with plenty of glamour thrown in. And She was Hungarian American, became a citizen in 1946. She stayed strongly anti-communist for what she saw as the destruction of her native country, at one point picketing the UN during the 1959 visit of Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev. She passed away of cancer back in 1974, is buried in Arlington National Cemetery near her last husband, Donald Dawson. She was married 4 times. Dawson had served in the Air Force Reserve as a major general. So there's a little bit on today's star. Now, we thank you for tuning in on this Saturday. This is the 25th day of June. This is the 176th day of the year, 189 days remaining, in the year. Happy birthday, Virginia. You became the 10th state of the Union to ratify the Constitution in 1788. Battle of the Little Bighorn took place on this date in 1876. The death of Major General George Custer came out of that. France formally surrendered to Nazi Germany on this date in 1940. The Diary of Anne Frank, published in 1947. Long-Haired Hare, released in theaters on this date in 1949. The beginning of the Korean War in 1950 with the invasion of the South by the North. In 1973, the Senate Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities, looking onto the Watergate affair, interviewed the president's former counsel, John Dean.
I gave considerable thought to how I would present this situation to the president and try to make as dramatic a presentation as I could to tell him how serious I thought the situation was that the cover-up continue. I began by telling the president that there was a cancer growing on the presidency, and that if the cancer was not removed, the president himself would be killed by it. I also told him that it was important that this cancer be removed immediately because it was growing more deadly every day.
Dean testified that President Nixon was personally involved in the cover-up of the break-in of Democratic campaign headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi on this date in 1975 declared an emergency in India, suspending civil liberties and elections. Microsoft restructured to become an incorporated business in Washington on this date in 1981. In 1982, President Reagan's Secretary of State Alexander Haig resigned.
In recent months, it has become clear to me that the foreign policy on which we embarked together was shifting from that careful course which we laid out. Under these circumstances, I feel it necessary to request that you accept my resignation.
Haig referred to growing differences over foreign policy in general and the Middle East in particular. President Reagan accepted Haig's resignation and nominated George Shultz to succeed him. Well, 25 years after he was supposed to have graduated from high school, Billy Joel received his diploma at Hicks High School on Long Island on this date in 1992.
Mom, don't worry, because now I'm going to finally pull myself out of this dead-end job I have. Start working on a career with a real future.
The 43-year-old singer-songwriter didn't graduate with this class in 1967 because, as school principal Richard Hogan explained, he was missing one credit in English. He was working as a musician and overslept, missing an English exam. The Khobar Towers bombing on this date in 1996 left 19 U.S. servicemen dead in Saudi Arabia. An unnamed Progress spacecraft collided with the Russian space station Mir on this date in 1997. In 1998, the Supreme Court declared the line item veto of 1996 unconstitutional in Clinton versus the city of New York. The daytime soap opera Another World aired for the final time on NBC on this date in 1999. Passing away on this date in history, songwriter Johnny Mercer, also Jacques Cousteau. Politician Lester Maddox, he was a strange one. I shouldn't say he was a strange one. He was a truly weird duck and believed in segregationism more than any reasonable thinking man should. Michael Jackson also passing away on this date. Farrah Fawcett on the same date back in 2009. This is the birth date of George Orwell. Also Harold Melvin of Harold Melvin and the New Blue Notes, Anthony Bourdain, and George Michael. From Lassie and Lost in Space, June Lockhart, 97 years old today. Eddie Floyd, who did the song Knock on Wood, is 85 today. Carly Simon, not very vain at all at 77. Jimmy Walker, best known for his role on Good Times, 75. Now, his position may have changed, but when I met him back, this has been 20 years ago, he hated any reference to Good Times. The role which made him famous. He's 75 anyway. Ricky Gervais is 61, and from Freaks and Geeks and ER, Linda Cardinelli is 47. Those some of the people who celebrate the 25th day of June as their birthday. If this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And from 72 years ago, June 25th, 1950, Top Secret, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on a Saturday. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of Top Secret, starring Ilona Massey, as it was originally broadcast 72 years ago today, June 25th, 1950, a package in Tangiers.
Until now, this story has been Top Secret. Top Secret, the new NBC presentation starring gorgeous Ilona Massey as the Baroness Karen Gazer in transcribed dramas of international intrigue and espionage before and during World War II. Assignment 3, The Package in Tangiers. A story until now. Top Secret.
In Tangiers, Monsieur Brown, murder is like love. The essence is quietness and privacy, huh?
She'll be quiet, all right. She'll be out for days.
Take her downstairs to our little room.
Oh, it's too bad you had to hit her.
It's too bad we have to kill her.
Well, that's a bit risky, isn't it? Tangiers is a neutral zone.
We will take her to the cliffs tonight. A shot, a push, voila. And what will be left? Nothing to say won't wash away. Now, take her downstairs to our little room.
Yes, Captain. Tiny, isn't she?
Hurry back, will you, Monsieur Brown? We have a lot to do.
Cold, honey? All right. There. Not much of a bet, is it? But you had it coming to you.
Consciousness came back. I had gambled and I had lost. I had made a mistake. As I lay on the filthy bed in the airless cell, I could hear the voice of the farmer, my chief, the man who hired me to spy against the Nazis in Hitler's Berlin.
In espionage, Baroness, your first mistake will be your last. There will be no protection in danger, no recognition, even in death.
No recognition, even in death. There would be nothing to identify me as the little manicurist who became the personal maid, almost the confidential companion of Emmy Goring, the statuesque consort of the number 2 Nazi himself.
Why is it, Karen, that in a house with 30 bedrooms there isn't one good mirror?
Oh, the hat is very becoming, Frau Goring.
Well, it will have to do. I'll be back in a couple of hours. I'll wear the white satin and the emeralds tonight.
Yes, Frau Goring.
Goodbye, Karen.
Goodbye. It's Karen.
Karen,
It's all right. I'm on the phone in her bedroom. Have you any instructions?
The Tiergarten, in an hour.
15 minutes.
Right.
That's how it is, Karen. You've got to leave for Tangiers tonight.
Is it that important?
There's a leak in our intelligence down there. 4 times in the past month, the Germans have gotten hold of vital information known only to a handful of men in the Allied High Command.
Frau Goring will never let me go.
If she won't, you'll have to go anyway.
But my job in the Goring house is the best contact we have.
Karen, you're going to Tangiers. It may only be for a few days. Your contact there is a little boy. Go to the Bazaar of the Singing Fountain. There is a blind beggar who walks the bazaar with a little boy leading him.
But there must be many blind beggars in Tangiers.
In the Bazaar of the Singing Fountain, there is only one.
One beggar in a bazaar?
One little boy aged 12 with gray hair.
I'm sorry, Karen. It is impossible. You've been with me less than a month, and now you want a week's vacation. No, it is impossible.
Oh, I wish you would change your mind, Frau Goring.
Put the front curls higher.
Yeah.
No, higher still.
Oh.
No. Give me the comb.
Yes, Frau Goring.
Thank you. Where did you want to go?
Tangiers.
Tangiers?
Yes, why?
Tangiers. Will you step outside a moment, Karen? I wish to telephone privately.
Certainly, Frau Goring.
I'll call you when I'm through.
Yes, Frau Goring.
Franz, the most amazing luck. My maid wants to go to Tangiers. Yes, I'm sure of it. No, I don't think she'd ever suspect. Look, will you arrange for payment? 25,000 American dollars. Yes. She doesn't have to know anything. I know it's risky, but there's no other way. And she's a sensible girl. Right. Yes, goodbye. Karen, I'm through.
Frau Goring, I was thinking that with the white satin...
Karen, I've changed my mind. You may have your vacation.
Oh, thank you, Frau Goring.
Would you do a little errand for me in Tangiers?
Of course I will, anything.
When are you leaving?
Well, I thought that...
Tonight?
Yes, if you wish.
Very well. Take this note to Saxel at the aerodrome. I see. One of the Reichsmarshal's private planes will be at your disposal. The pilot's name is Captain Klein. Yes. In Tangiers, go to this address and ask for Suleiman Abdel Kadir. He will give you a package. You bring back the package to me.
Yes. Would it be too curious to ask what the package contains?
Much too curious.
Yes, Frau Goring.
Now, this card will serve as your identification at the house of El Kadir. Mm-hmm. The signature is that of the man we both serve, Hermann.
I don't like it, Karen.
Farmer, I have to go. Captain Kleinst is waiting. The plane is ready to take off.
But what is it? What is Emmy Goring after?
I don't know. She's talked about a sable coat.
Tangiers for a sable coat?
I must go. It's dangerous for us to be seen together.
Your job is more important than a package for Emmy Goring.
What better way to find the leak in Allied intelligence than to pose as a German agent? I have a card signed by Hermann himself. To Tangiers was uneventful, except for a moment of heartache when my Nazi pilot refueled outside Paris, occupied Paris. When I arrived in Tangiers, I took a room at the Fadella Hotel. Then I made my way to the Bazaar of the Singing Fountain to look for a blind beggar led by a little boy with gray hair.
For my father who is blind.
My child, your cause is good, but your manners are bad.
I ask only alms, madame, not instruction.
One takes off his hat to a lady, even when one begs for his father who is blind.
As you wish, madame. There.
I am from the farmer. Bring your father to the Fadella Hotel, room 23. It's on the first floor. What are you doing in my hotel room?
Fräulein, it is the business of German intelligence to watch people who arrive in Tangiers in one of Goring's private planes.
And to break into their hotel rooms?
You have nothing to fear, Fräulein, if you can identify yourself. What is that?
What is what?
There's someone at the window.
You seem very nervous.
Open it.
Certainly. Your fears are groundless. Herr, what is your name?
Never mind names. Show me your identification.
I am the maid, the personal companion of Frau Goring. Here is a card signed by the Reichsmarschall himself. Does that satisfy you?
Yeah. My apologies, Fräulein. But you were seen talking to the little boy in the bazaar. For months I have suspected his father.
Will you leave now?
Someday I will get that old beggar blind. Bah, he is a fox. And he will be killed the way all enemies of Germany... Oh!
Who is it? Is there somebody there? You!
Yes, madame. From the window.
Get inside, quickly. Put the window down. Hurry. What is the meaning of this? Have you gone out of your mind?
I'm an expert at throwing knives, madame. It was part of my education.
But why? Why?
I hate Germans, madame. He threatened my father. I have killed before.
You are not a child. You are a monster. I'll have to get out of this hotel. They'll find his body and... Oh, help me with him. Quickly. Under the bed. Please. Please, hurry. Shh. What is it?
Yes, madame, wish towels?
I have plenty. Thank you. You idiot. You may have ruined everything.
When there is doubt, madame, one always kills Germans. They blinded my father, killed my mother. They'll find him any minute, even under the bed. There. Now listen. Take my suitcase out the window. I'll leave by the front door. We will go to your father's house.
No, madame. What? I will not take you to my father.
That doesn't sound good. From 72 years ago, June 25th, 1970, Ilona Massey starring in Top Secret right here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station. We're listening to an episode of Top Secret, starring Ilona Massey, as it was originally broadcast on Sunday, June 25th, 1950. In the newspapers of that Sunday, 72 years ago, these were some of the headlines. Forces of Communist North Korea launched a series of attacks against the American-sponsored South Korean Republic yesterday, and the northern Pyongyang radio said that war had been declared formally effective at 11 a.m. yesterday. The Moscow-supported North Korean forces attacked in heavy rain after mortar and artillery bombardments were started at 4 a.m., reports to Korean Army headquarters said. There are 2,000 Americans in Korea, including a military mission. Shortly after noon, the Communist Pyongyang radio had said the North Korean government had formally declared war on the Southern Republic. Meanwhile, State Department officials said last night the U.S. will hold Russia responsible for the Communist North Korean attack against the independent South Korean Republic, which this nation and the United Nations brought into being and have supported. But there was no indication that the U.S. intends to take direct military action of its own in defense of South Korea. President Truman yesterday derided stagecoach mossbacks in Congress and elsewhere who would hold back American progress and described as false political oratory the charges that federal aid is weakening or destroying state and local government. Mr. Truman spoke at the dedication of Baltimore's new Friendship International Airport, built under the Federal Aid Airport Program. The president added that under the Federal Aid Program, local government has been strengthened and given new responsibility by virtue of the federal interest. He predicted an ever-growing expansion of the American economy as long as Americans are willing to make plans for economy. French Premier Georges Bidal's 8-month-old government fell yesterday after suffering an overwhelming defeat in a National Assembly vote of confidence, the vote 352 to 250, with 7 abstentions. France plunging once more into a political crisis, and at the moment it was taking the lead toward European unity. The beaten premier and members of his right-of-center government immediately turned in their resignations to President Vincent Ayrault. The premier's defeat was on a technical question, but the real issue at stake was Bidal's refusal to grant wage increases to government workers as demanded by socialists and communists. The Russians formally protested yesterday against General Douglas MacArthur's police club law and demanded that he halt all anti-communist measures in Japan. MacArthur expected either to ignore or reject the Soviet note sent by Colonel S. Polishenko, acting Soviet member of the Allied Council for Japan. The protest, obviously designed for propaganda purposes, charged that MacArthur had violated both the Potsdam and Far East Commission's declarations on the democratization of Japan. The Russian note called on MacArthur to withdraw the directives of June 6th and 7th, purging from public life 24 members of Communist Party Central Committee and 17 editorial members of the Red Party organ, Akahata. Akahata, meanwhile, forecasts assassination attempts in the future on important leaders here, meaning MacArthur. And those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, June 25th, 1950, on your radio, Top Secret. The conclusion you'll hear next on this Saturday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. On Sunday's Classic Radio Theater, a mutual program that was pretty much a standard, Joe DeSantis starring in Under Arrest from 73 years ago, June 26, 1949, the Paris Road, Captain Scott forced to help in the robbery of a famous Van Gogh painting, a case of criminal partners who never actually met. That's coming up on Sunday's Classic Radio Theater. But now the conclusion of Top Secret, starring Ilona Massey, from 72 years ago, June 25th, 1950.
Little boy, listen. Believe me, I am on your side. I work for the farmer. I have a plain white visiting card.
With a grain of wheat?
Glued in the center. No matter what you have heard about my working for Frau Goring, that is a cover. Do you understand? A cover. You do believe me, don't you?
It is difficult, madame, these days to believe anybody.
I hate Nazism and fascism as much as you do. Wait. I have some chocolate in my purse.
I have no appetite for candy, madame.
Little boy, come here. Closer. How old are you?
12, madame.
Poor little boy. There.
Thank you, madame. You're very kind.
Out the window quickly with my suitcase. I will meet you at the corner in 3 minutes. We took a taxi. The strange, sad, gray-haired child of 12. His face was expressionless, tired, pinched. Through the narrow streets, we drove to the worst district of Tangiers, to his father's house. I was taken to a tiny room at the back and told to wait, while the boy went for his father.
She's a cheat, father, like all the others. She pretends to work for both sides, but works only for herself.
Where is she, my boy?
In the back room.
You should not judge too quickly. It is difficult for an enemy to learn the passwords of the farmer.
But she has a card signed by Goring. I saw it. I saw her talking to Herr von Feld in a hotel room. I saw her.
Give her my respects and apologies. I will sleep now and talk to her in the morning. But watch her. If she goes out, follow her.
Yes, father.
Go now, my boy. Remember, it is a sin to judge too quickly.
Madame?
Yes?
My father's respects. He's old and tires easily. He will see you in the morning. I hope you will be comfortable here. Our house is poor, but clean.
Thank you, Father. I have an errand to do now. A package that must be picked up. I shall return soon.
A package, madame?
Little boy, you will have to learn someday in your life how to tell when people are your friends. I am looking for Sulaiman Abdelkadir.
Salam alaikum. I am he. Come in.
Were you expecting me?
At my age, Fräulein, one expects anything. How may I serve you?
Here is a card. It is signed by the Reichsmarshal himself. I am to pick up a package.
Ah, yes. It is ready. Ready and waiting. Here you are, Fräulein.
But,
why are you startled?
I was expecting a large package.
Preconceived ideas are usually wrong, Fräulein. May I wish you good evening?
Is there nothing to pay?
Nothing. Good evening, Fräulein.
I followed her. She went to Suleiman Abdelkadir. Father, I saw her.
You are sure, my son?
I saw him answer the door. I saw her go in. She's a Nazi, Father. She will trick us. Please, Father, let me...
No, my son. Report her to Mr. Brown. Tell him what you have told me. And please, since she is as beautiful as you say, do not have them arrest her in this house. In the morning, they can take her in the Bazaar with the rest of the trash in Tangiers.
Sit on the stone. It's quite clean. I will return in a moment.
But when can I see your father?
He will lunch with us at home, madame. But wait here. I shall not be long. Do not go away, madame. I will be back soon.
Will you come with me, please?
Are you speaking to me?
Brown is the name. Allied Intelligence. Will you come with me, please?
I most certainly will not.
I don't want to be brutal. I can't legally arrest you, but there are other ways. If you come with me, you'll have a chance. But if you don't, you won't get out of this bazaar alive. That's not being dramatic. That's a fact. Tangiers is a strange place. Please come quietly.
Where?
Allied headquarters. We have an old house. It's not far.
Can't we discuss this, Mr. Brown? There is no need for...
Open your suitcase, please.
How did it get here?
The boy. Open it. If you don't open it, I'll have to break it open.
There.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's this?
Face powder.
Mm-hmm. You always wear platform soles on your shoes?
Not always. There is no need to wreck my shoes. If you tell me what you're looking for, I'll be very glad to help.
I don't know quite what I'm looking for.
Mr. Brown, you may not believe this, but I am not a Nazi spy.
Oh, come off it, lady. You had a private plane from Berlin. One of Mr. Goring's special numbers. You were seen going into Elkadir's house. He's the leading Nazi in Tangiers. Don't give me this cover stuff, please.
You've got to believe me. I'm trying to locate the source of...
Of what?
I can't tell you.
That's right, you can't. This what you picked up at Elkadir's?
If it's a matter of money, Mr. Brown, we might come to terms.
Sorry, there isn't that much money in the world. Now, what's in this?
I don't know.
It was in your suitcase?
I don't know, I tell you.
All right, let's open it. Well, why do you have to get face cream from Elkadir?
I had no idea what was in the package.
A jar of face cream? Or is it...
You have no right to... what is it?
Innocent, aren't you?
Is it?
Yes. Buried in the cold cream. But, naturally, you wouldn't know.
I swear, I had no idea. I swear to it.
I don't like women like you. Hello, Captain.
Is this the young lady, eh?
Yes, sir.
What is the verdict, Monsieur Brun?
I'd say guilty.
I assure you, Captain...
Be quiet, please. Oui, Monsieur Brun.
She arrived in one of Goring's private planes.
Uh-huh.
She entertained the Gestapo in her hotel room.
Uh-huh.
She tried to bribe me. She's tried about everything. The beggar's kid had me pick her up, and I found that in a suitcase.
I see.
Let me go. Let me go.
Mademoiselle, don't be foolish. You can't possibly get away.
Let go of me.
You didn't have to hit her.
Monsieur Brun, we have to kill her.
Well, that's a bit risky, isn't it? Tangiers is a neutral zone.
In Tangiers, murder is like love. The essence is quietness and privacy. Take her downstairs to our little room. We will take her to the cliffs tonight. A shot, a push, voila. And nothing will be left. Nothing that the sea won't wash away. Take her downstairs, Captain.
I deliberately kept my cover. It would have been simple to prove I worked for the farmer, but I had a feeling I would be released. I knew that whoever got me out of this would be the person responsible for the leak in our Tangiers intelligence. Hours passed. Then he came for me.
What do you want?
We're ready if you are.
Even in Tangiers, there must be laws about murder.
That is why we are so discreet, mademoiselle. This will do, Monsieur Brun. It is quiet, dark, and deserted. Mademoiselle, I know you will not force us to drag you screaming from the car.
Gentlemen, the time has come for me to tell you the truth. As a matter of fact...
The time has come for you to get out, honey.
Get out. Thank you.
You want me to do it?
No. Wet ear. Proceed, mademoiselle.
Captain, I must tell you that...
Keep quiet. They will hear us.
What?
Please, keep quiet.
What?
When one has to shoot, one shoots quickly.
Oh.
Good. Now listen. Near here there is a path down the cliff. It is very steep. Watch yourself.
Yes.
Almost directly beneath us is a small pier. I will pick you up there in a motorboat in an hour.
Then you are...
Oui. Now be on the pier in an hour. I will get there as soon as I can get rid of this fool American.
I wanted to sing, to shout. This was the leak. The head man of Allied espionage was a traitor. I groped my way down the rocky cliff and found the small pier just as he had said. I sat there in the cold, shivering, but exultant, and waited.
I congratulate you. You were superb. Never have I seen anyone face death with such dignity.
Thank you, monsieur.
I attended to everything. Captain Kleist is waiting at the airport with your plane. There is your suitcase, and in it is your cold cream, or shall we say what was concealed in the cold cream.
You are very efficient.
Thank you, Fräulein. I have been useful to the Reichsmarschall on several occasions. You will not forget to mention my name, huh?
I will never forget you, never.
Merci. They are so stupid, these Americans, and the English words right under their very noses.
Climbing down the cliff, I loosened my heel. Have you a hammer?
Under the seat there is a toolbox. Lift up the top. Have you got it?
Yes, monsieur. Thank you.
It will be greasy, mademoiselle.
No one will notice the grease.
I wish to do as you say, but Al-Qadir is one of the most influential Germans in Tangiers.
Captain Kleist, we will take off at once.
Al-Qadir said no. There was a body found in the Fedala Hotel. It seems that your room was...
Captain, do you recognize the signature on this card? Or must the pilot of the Reich be told who is Hermann?
Sympathy, we take off at once.
You did splendidly, Karen. Splendidly.
Thank you. But I can't forget that little boy. It was horrible. Farmer, he wasn't a child. He was an old man.
Our work will help build his future, Karen.
Yes, I know.
Incidentally, the package of Frau Goring's, what was it?
In a jar of cold cream, a small fortune in morphine. The jar got broken. I told Frau Goring I dropped it. She admitted it was medicine for Hermann. She was very grateful. Apparently, Himmler has closed off the Reichsmarschall's supply.
And the leak in Tangiers is plugged for good.
Plugged for good. With a hammer. A German hammer.
You have just heard Ilona Massey starring in the new NBC presentation, Top Secret. And here she is with a clue about next week.
Next week, as assignment 4, Philip Cornelius. His courage, his bravery, his tenderness, his escape. It is a personal story of mine. And until now, it has most certainly been top secret.
Top Secret is directed and produced by Harry W. Junkin. The script was by Alan Sloan. Heard with Miss Massey tonight were Bryna Rayburn, Louis Van Ruten, Tommy Frederick, Earl Hammond, Carl Emery, and Bernard Grant. The music was composed and conducted by Dr. Roy Shield. This is Fred Collins speaking.
From June 25th, 1950, Top Secret here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit my webpage, classicradio.stream. There you can hear all 21 hours a week of our shows on demand, learn more about classic radio collecting, and you can contact me there. And if you like our shows, you can buy me a copy. That won't go to coffee. It might go to a Dr. Pepper, but more likely going to finding brand new radio shows for me to be able to bring you. And tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.
Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node. Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic Radio Theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
We go back to June 25th, 1946 for an episode of the summer show Encore Theater. And this episode stars Robert Young, called Green Light.
The Shenley Laboratories, producer of Penicillin Shenley and Shenley Pharmaceuticals, presents the Encore Theater. The Encore Theater play tonight, Green Light. Our star is Robert Young. Tonight, Shenley Laboratories presents another in a new series of great dramatic programs. Some of our stories are fact, the struggles and accomplishments of great men of medicine. Others are fiction, stories of devotion to an ideal, individual heroism, or great courage. By these programs, Shenley Laboratories would remind you that medical science and progress is not cold, impersonal research or pages of statistics, but a warm human story told in living terms, whether it's the life of one of medicine's immortals or the simple, everyday record of service rendered by your own physician. Now, Green Light, starring Robert Young as Dr. Newell Page, and with Pedro de Cordova as Dean Harcourt. Green Light, the story of a doctor.
Newell Page, surgeon, Bay Tree Hospital.
And of a girl.
Phyllis Dexter. I hated Dr. Page. I thought I would always hate him.
The story, too, of a nurse.
Frances Ogilvy, staff, Bay Tree Hospital. I loved Dr. Page. I thought I would always love him.
The story of a woman of great faith and courage.
My mother, Mrs. John Dexter.
And of a great religious man, Dean Harcourt of Trinity Cathedral.
Man's progress in life is not steadily onward. Sometimes he is stopped by something that is bigger and stronger than he. Something he cannot understand and over which he has no control. That's something I like to think of as a red light, flashing a halt to the forward surge of his life. And I like to believe there's a power which controls that life, which knows in its infinite wisdom that sometimes man must stop to learn through suffering before going on. For it is as inevitable as time that man progresses to a better future, if not for himself, then through his suffering for his fellow men. When he has learned this, the signal changes, and the green light frees him to resume his inexorable march into eternity.
You have been listening to...
I'll turn it off now, Dr. Page.
What would religion be without music?
There was religion long before there was music.
I'm sorry. The usual greeting for the doctor is, and how is the little lady this morning?
And I suppose the usual answer is, terrible, Doctor.
But since we both are unusual people, I'd say your pulse shows marvelous repose for a patient facing surgery.
You can thank Dean Harcourt for that.
I do. Just as I'm thankful for anything that gives a patient courage and confidence.
A shorter word for courage and confidence is faith.
Whatever it is, you'll need every bit of it now.
More bad news?
Oh, nothing really serious, except that, well, it's not easy to prepare oneself mentally for an operation. Sometimes a postponement can cause a harmful reaction. What I'm trying to say is...
You're trying to tell me my operation has been postponed?
Yes, Dr. Endicott has been detained in Milwaukee. He'll be here as soon as he can.
Milwaukee's a beautiful city. It's always seemed full of music to me. Years ago, we used to go there to hear the community singing.
You make it work, don't you?
No, I simply let it work.
How simple things would be if we all had your faith. I'll let you know about the operation as soon as I possibly can.
I know you will.
Any word of Dr. Endicott yet, Miss Ogilvy?
No, Doctor, they can't seem to locate him.
Here are Mrs. Dexter's x-rays, Newell. Thanks. Good Lord, look at that. She can't hold out much longer. We've got to do something. We'll have to wait for Endicott. She's his patient. We can't postpone this operation any longer. Her life is at stake now. I'll phone surgery. Are you crazy? Not unless these x-rays are.
Surgery.
Surgery, this is Dr. Page. You can't do that. Endicott will... We'll operate on Mrs. Dexter immediately. Glad, Miss Ogilvy.
Yes, Dr. Page.
Forceps.
Dr. Page?
Yes, Dr. Endicott.
Thank you, Doctor. If you will assist me, I can take over now.
Yes, sir.
The forceps, Miss Ogilvy. Dr. Page, make the tie, please.
She's bleeding badly. Quick.
Well, I'm afraid that's that. I did everything I could.
She shouldn't have died, Newell. You were doing perfect work. If Endicott had been less upset... I'd rather not talk about it.
I saw exactly what happened, and I'm going to tell everybody the truth.
Don't you think it's Dr. Endicott's privilege to make his own statement first?
Come in.
Hello, Dr. Endicott.
Oh, Newell, glad you came in. I've been wanting to talk to you. Sit down. Nasty business is Dexter death. I've been trying to convince the board of directors that her death was an unavoidable accident. It was unavoidable, wasn't it?
No, sir. For some reason, you cut the pedicle too short for safe ligation. I couldn't make the tie, and the hemorrhage resulted. It should never have happened. The problem now
I
is...
probably shouldn't have stepped in on the operation, realizing the terrific strain I'd been under. We all love Mrs. Dexter. I felt that her life was my personal responsibility, but all planes had been grounded on account of weather. I've moved heaven and earth to get here in time. I haven't slept in 2 days. Too tired.
I'm sorry, sir.
A split second, woman dies, and a whole career dies with her. A split second is against the 40 years I've given to medicine. I can't be judged on one operation out of thousands, Newell. I can't.
Newell. Hello, John. What time is it?
Time for you to pull yourself together. Get down to the hospital and tell Endicott and the board where to head in.
I can't do that.
Why not?
What do you want me to do? Stand up before the board and say, dear, dear, kind gentlemen. It doesn't matter to me that Dr. Endicott taught me everything I know about surgery. It doesn't matter that Dr. Endicott is one of the finest surgeons in the country. It doesn't matter how many lives he's saved, how much pain he's eased, how much comfort he's brought. No, none of that's important. Just me. I'm the only one who's important. Big, important Dr. Page.
I know it's tough, Newell, but you've got to protect yourself.
A split second. A woman dies and a career dies with her. That isn't right either. Endicott's a human being, too. He's not infallible.
That's no concern of yours. If you resign, you admit that you were responsible for Mrs. Dexter's death.
Exactly.
Well, that clears Endicott completely.
Right.
Confound it, you sound as if you were going to resign.
I have already.
Dean Harcourt. I'm Frances Ogilvy. I was the nurse on the... I was Mrs. Dexter's nurse.
Oh, I see.
She always listened to your broadcast, and I had to talk to someone, so... You see, I know what happened in that operating room, and Dr. Page won't defend himself because of professional ethics, and I wanted to speak up, but I thought I should talk to someone first.
No man makes sacrifices without reason. Whatever that reason may be, it's in itself compensation for his suffering.
But why should Dr. Page sacrifice himself for Endicott?
For the moment, that's Dr. Page's problem, not yours. He must have had good reasons, otherwise he wouldn't do it. There's nothing you can do except respect that reason.
I see. I've taken a lot of your time. Is there something I can do to repay you?
Yes. Phyllis Dexter's waiting to see me. She's pretty upset about her mother's death. Before I talk to her, I want you to take her to the little anteroom where you were taken. Ask her whatever questions you wish. Then come back to me and tell me what she says.
Just throw your coat anywhere, Phyllis. Sorry, the apartment's a little messy.
Oh, it's not messy at all. I feel much better after talking to you, and it was very kind of you to invite me over.
Not at all. I got some coffee on. Will you answer the door, please?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was Miss Ogilvy's apartment.
It is. Come in. Who shall I tell her is calling?
No. Hello.
Oh, Francis.
Well, come in. Can I check your coat?
No, thanks. I can only stay a moment.
Perhaps I'd better go now. I had no idea you were expecting a visitor.
I wasn't. He's the last person in the world I ever expected to see here.
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't expect to be here myself. I was out walking in the rain when suddenly, to my surprise, I found myself in front of your house.
Miss Phyllis Dexter just returned from England today.
Phyllis Dexter?
Miss Ogilvy sort of kidnapped me away from myself.
I wish she could do as much for me. That is, I've got to run along. It's an appointment.
Miss Dexter, may I introduce Mr. Walker?
If you're as nice as Miss Ogilvy, you'll be well worth knowing.
Well, thank you.
Sit down, Noel.
Well, just for a moment. I really can't stay. Did you, enjoy London?
Yes, very much. Why are you staring at me?
Well, I'm sorry. You remind me so much of someone.
Really?
Yes, someone very lovely. I never expected to meet anyone like that again. Time decides so many things, doesn't it? A split second of time, something happens. Two people meet accidentally. A knife slips. Someone takes the wrong turn. Anything. And without warning, a future has been created.
Evidently, you're a fatalist.
Hardly. I only know that things happen. Sometimes it seems with deliberate cruelty. Don't let anything happen to you or hurt you. Well, I've got to go now. Good night.
Good night.
What a strange man.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's one of a kind. At least he's the only one I've ever seen.
Do you think he'll call again soon?
Honey, there's no way of telling what he'll do, ever. As Dean Harcourt would say, the signals have changed. The lights are against him right now. But he'll get the green light again. He can't miss.
June 25th, 1946, Encore Theater on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Encore Theater, June 25th, 1946.
Dean Harcourt, I came here to argue with you about your concept of everlasting life.
All right. Please sit down.
I want to know how you can justify needless death, greed, and the destruction of a career. I want to know how you can reconcile such waste with your irresistible onward drive.
Why?
I'm the Dr. Page who operated on Mrs. Dexter.
I see. You have a fine religion, Dr. Page.
I have none, so far as I know.
Religion has many definitions, at least in my dictionary, such as loyalty, devotion, honor.
Perhaps, but my dictionary defines it as a kind of opiate used by people with hurt sensibilities to dull them into drowsiness. A man needs more than that in his life. Something he can get his hands on. Something for which to live.
Or else something for which to die.
I can't even think of anything to die for.
Yes, come in. Hello, Phyllis.
Hello, Dean Harcourt. Hello, Mr. I had no idea you knew Dean Harcourt.
I didn't until a short while ago.
Then you must be in some trouble.
Is that why you're here?
Well, Dean Harcourt was my mother's friend. He's mine, too. I hoped we'd meet again. I wanted to ask you to explain some of the strange things you said last night.
I'm always saying strange things that I can't explain myself. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Well, I had no idea you two knew each other.
I'd met Mr. Walker last night.
Mr. Splendid, you two should make excellent friends.
I'm afraid Mr. Walker doesn't agree with you.
That's not it, Miss Dexter. We might have made very good friends, but we met a little too late.
My goodness, it's lunchtime already. You must be frightfully hungry, Phyllis.
I beg your pardon?
I said you must be hungry.
I'm not.
Sorry, I can't offer you any lunch. You eat, don't you?
Me? Oh, sure, I eat often.
When I was a young man, I was always taking a young lady to lunch, particularly if I'd had some sort of misunderstanding. In fact, I was known as Hungry Harcourt.
You in, Dean. Shall we have lunch, Miss Dexter?
Let's.
Good. You two run along and have a good time. And by the way, if you have no other plans, have dinner with me next Friday, both of you.
I'd love to.
So would I.
And bring Miss O'Gilvy with you.
Yes, I'll ask her. Goodbye.
See you Friday.
About 8.
Bye.
You're a strange man.
Why do you say that?
One moment you're so friendly, and the next you... Why did you say we met too late?
Let's sit down on this bench a moment.
All right.
Last night, when I met you, it was like... Well, it was almost like the beginning of a world for me. I don't know how to explain it very well, except that for a moment, it was like the dawn coming up after a long, dark night. It was as though, in finding you, I'd found an answer to everything, to every heartache, to every loneliness, to every torment. I looked at you and I wanted to say, if you will spend your days with me, I'll have everything I've ever dreamed about.
You thought all that?
Yes.
Do you know what I thought? I thought, in some strange way, in one look, with one smile, this man has put his hand upon my heart and made it his. And I thought, this is the beginning of many things.
It was the beginning, but it was also the ending.
The ending? Why?
Because your name is Phyllis Dexter, and mine is Newell Page, Dr. Newell Page.
Newell Page? Page?
Yes, that's why I didn't want to see you again. At least not until I could find some way of telling you you have no reason for hating me.
No reason? You killed my mother.
No.
Well, then who did? You might at least have been man enough to accept the blame.
You don't understand. It was not
I think I do understand. Goodbye, Dr. Page.
I can't understand why he isn't here.
No, he's usually very prompt.
Well, he'll be along. Did you two have a nice luncheon the other day, Phyllis?
We didn't go to lunch.
Oh?
Why not? What happened?
Nothing.
You're not telling the truth.
You lied to me. You introduced Dr. Page as Mr. Walker.
I see.
Why?
Because I saw no reason to upset you or him. I'd do anything I could to make things easier for him.
Why should he have things made easier for him?
Phyllis, you're...
Don't say it. Don't say it. I'm sick of philosophies and sermons and parables. I'm a human being. I have a right to hate or love.
Phyllis, what did Page do to you?
He killed my mother.
There's something else. Something within you that's been killed.
He lied to me.
You love him.
I don't. I despise him. He didn't even have the decency to take the blame himself.
Did he name another doctor?
Oh, no. How could he?
That's right. How could he? He's too decent, too honest to break the rules he plays by.
Why do you say that?
Tell her, friends.
No. No, I'll play according to Page's rules now. He didn't have to listen to sermons to become good. He was born that way. He'll always be that way, no matter what happens to him.
I don't understand.
You will, eventually. You see, my dear, until you have faith, you don't really love. Francis.
Yes.
I've learned much from you today. Thank you.
Will you excuse me from dinner, please, Dean Harcourt?
Where are you going?
You're fine.
I'll answer the door.
Telegram for Dean Harcourt. Fine here.
Yes, thank you. It's for you.
Oh,
What? What is it?
I'm afraid you'll have to go a long way, Phyllis. He's in Montana.
Montana?
This wire's from a Dr. Lane. He says Newell asked him to wire and explain that he couldn't come to dinner. And he says he's very ill. He deliberately let a wood tick bite him so that he could infect himself with spotted fever.
Spotted fever?
He wants to be used as a human guinea pig to test the vaccine.
Oh, no. Come on. We've got to get Dr. Endicott in a hurry. Dr. Endicott, Dr. Page is with John Lane.
On Boone Mountain?
Yes.
I won't have him in that pest hole. He'll die like all the rest.
He may be dying now. He's down with spotted fever. He gave it to himself to test a vaccine.
My fault if he dies. My fault. He mustn't die. I won't let him. We'll charter a plane. Get out there right away.
What's my temperature?
It was 102.9 an hour ago. How do you feel?
Not bad. Kind of groggy. Pain in the lower quadrant of the abdomen. Make a note of it. I want to see how long it lasts.
Why did you ever do such a fool thing? Deliberately infecting yourself, risking your life.
If I die, I don't particularly care. And you'll have learned something. There, seems to be a congestion developing in the lungs. How about taking a blood count? I'd like to see if I'm losing any resistance.
Robert Young in Greenlight, an episode of the summer series Encore Theater, June 25th, 1946 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of the summer series Encore Theater, sponsored by Shenley Laboratories, one of the people who marketed penicillin back in the day. This episode, Green Light, starring Robert Young, June 25th, 1946.
Hello, Dr. Lane. How is he?
Is he conscious?
Yes, but he's sinking.
We'll go right in. Not you, Miss Dexter. We don't want to upset him.
All right.
Hello, Newell.
Hello, Dr. Endicott. Francis, we can use you. John's getting sick of keeping my chart.
We aren't going to let you die.
You won't have anything to say about it if that vaccine doesn't work. At the present, I share the same place in society with the guinea pig. John?
Yes, Newell.
Make that blood count. Watch my temperature closely. I'm becoming stuporous.
He's unconscious.
No, not yet. Keep your nerve, Francis. You're an old hand at this sort of thing.
Yes, Dr. Page.
What's my temperature?
104.1.
Heart action. Weakening. John.
Better not talk, Newell.
Take another blood count. Temperature 104.1. Should break before it reaches 105. Can't take 105.
Francis, if he dies, I will have killed him just as I killed Mrs. Dexter.
What did you say, Dr. Endicott?
I was to blame, Phyllis. I was at fault, and I never should have let him take the blame. He's got to live. If there's any justice at all, he's got to live.
Now you know what you needed to know, Phyllis.
No. I haven't really needed to know anything since the moment when I knew I loved him.
His temperature's up to 104.2.
I'll go right in. Temperature, last 4 readings, steady, 104.2.
Dr. Endicott, can't you do something? We can't just sit here and let him die.
There's nothing we can do for him now, except pray.
Francis, Phyllis, Dr. Endicott. His temperature. Look at his temperature.
103.1.
It's licked. Phyllis, it's licked. He's going to live. He's going to be all right.
Endicott, there's a place for you out here.
No, you fellas have already done the most important work on spotted fever. You won't need me here.
But the people will need great doctors to help them through their birth. Doctors who haven't forgotten their oath to their fellow men. To share my substance with him and to relieve his necessities when required.
I guess I lost sight of what being a doctor means for a while, Newell. But I think I've got the green light now myself.
You've been listening to Dean Harcourt, too.
Yes, I've been listening. And I'm going to stay out here.
Newell, a letter just came from Baytree.
Yes, I wrote them explaining everything.
Holy smoke. They've appointed me chief surgeon at Baytree.
Oh, I'm so proud of you, darling.
Oh, Phyllis. Phyllis, how rich I am. How fortunate, how lucky, how happy, how grateful. There aren't enough adjectives to say it.
I don't like to interrupt love's young dream, but it's time for Dean Harcourt.
Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments, and his ways past finding. For who has known the mind of the Lord? Or who hath been his counselor? Or who hath first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again? For of him, and through him, and in him are all things. To him be glory forever. Amen.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Young.
Ladies and gentlemen, to sum up the spirit of this Shenley Laboratories program, this beautiful and simple prayer of the physician, written centuries ago by Maimonides, seems to me to be apt and fitting. The eternal providence has appointed me to watch over the life and death of all thy creatures. May I always see in the patient a fellow creature in pain. Grant me strength and opportunity always to extend the domain of my craft. This is the prayer of the physician. It is ages old, and yet today it is as new as the hope for a peaceful way of life for all the world. May we invite you to listen again next week at the same time when Shenley Laboratories presents Men in White, starring Robert Taylor. A great star and a great story. Good night.
Green Light by Lloyd C. Douglas was produced and directed by Bill Lawrence and was broadcast through the courtesy of Warner Brothers, who this year is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Sound Pictures. It was a Gene Holloway adaptation. Robert Young will soon be seen in the Hal B. Wallace Paramount production, The Searching Wind. This is Frank Graham speaking for Shenley Laboratories, producers of Penicillin Shenley, and inviting you to listen to the Encore Theater next Tuesday at the same time, when you will hear Robert Taylor in Men in White. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Back when penicillin was a new miracle drug. June 25th, 1946, Encore Theater on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Time to check in on Claudia, an episode of the 1948 soap opera. This episode, June 25th, 1948.
And now, Claudia.
School days. Makes me homesick. My country 'tis of thee,
sweet land of liberty. You know, sometimes you make me feel that if I hadn't up and married you, you would still be at school.
Learning my reading, writing, and arithmetic. I'm pretty good at reading and writing.
And pretty bad at arithmetic.
Well, it's a man's work anyway. Say, did Mr. Reynolds say to meet him in front of the school at 9 o'clock?
That's what he said.
Well, he's late. Select man, you know that really is a funny name to call up. David, just what would you call Mr. Reynolds, what he is?
Mayor, I guess.
Well, then why do you call him...
They don't like to call him mayor. Because in the early days, when they were really practicing democracy up here in New England, they didn't like titles. They didn't like men to get too big for their breeches.
David, Mr. Selectman, Mayor of Eastbrook Reynolds has arrived.
Hey, Mr. Norton, Miss Norton.
Good morning, Mr. Reynolds.
Well, you here on time. Certainly admire people who are punctual.
We were waiting for you.
You say that pleasant, ma'am, but you say it like I was late. Oh, by George, I am late. 5 minutes past 9.
Yep.
Oh, got held up with Mort Tucker down the street. Mort's out of work, and his wife was out of victuals, and his kids is out of shoes, and Mort was out to go fishing. I exchanged him a shovel for his fish bowl and set him on the town truck.
And now Mrs. Mort Tucker will have something to eat besides fish, and the little Tuckers will have shoes.
And the town of Eastbrook will get some road mending done. Mort Tucker's a good man on the end of a shovel. He's got what it takes, strong back. Oh, Mort's all right, but he's kind of shiftless. Well, it's us don't be shiftless. There's the site for the new school building across the street.
Just what kind of a building did you have in mind, Mr. Reynolds?
Well, when you've got yourself an architect, and he's a good architect, a smart man sort of sits back and lets him come up with his own ideas. And George Reynolds is just as smart as the next man.
Well, that's very flattering, Mr. Reynolds, but I'm pretty busy at the moment. I don't know whether I should undertake a new job, or I'll have the time to undertake it.
Most elastic thing there is, Mr. Norton, is time. You may have to stretch it a bit, but the world's full of time. Just plumb full of time. I learned a lesson years ago, Mr. Norton. When you want to get a job done, you go to a busy man. He'll get it done for you.
Well, you seem to have disposed of my life pretty completely, Mr. Reynolds. There's one point to be determined. Just what kind of a building do you want to erect? And would I be the best man for the job? After all, I've never built a school before.
There ain't very many as has, Mr. Norton.
But there are an awful lot of schools, Mr. Reynolds.
Lots of school buildings, Mrs. Norton. I'm not so certain how many of them are schools.
Now, there's a fine point of distinction there, Mr. Reynolds.
But you must have some ideas in mind, Mr. Reynolds.
A few. I got a piece of paper here with the details on it. 500 children.
500, so many.
Town's growing, Mrs. Norton. Town's growing. Nobody ought to be aware of that more'n you. Seems like every young couple in the town, when they got nothing better to do, they up and have themselves a child. I guess there's not much better they can do. Makes for a good, thriving, growing town.
A school for 500 children.
Yeah. This here paper sort of lays out what we decided we need. So many rooms, an auditorium, gymnasium, playgrounds. It's all here. A lot of new-fangled things. I don't hold with all of them, but they say it's progress.
Playgrounds and gymnasiums and auditoriums are necessary to a good school, Mr. Reynolds. Can't be just school rooms.
So they say, Mrs. Norton. I'm a little old-fashioned, I guess. I got some ideas about a school.
Well, that's what you'd better talk to me about, Mr. Reynolds. Your ideas.
There was a wise man once said, the greatest school there is a log. Yep, that's just what he said.
A log?
Yeah, a log. With a student on one end of it and a great teacher on the other. Couldn't be no finer school than that.
Mark Hopkins said that.
Old Mark did, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, smart man. Well, we got kids enough and logs to spare, but we're sort of shy on great teachers for the other end of them.
Might be a little drafty and damp in this ideal school of yours, Mr. Reynolds.
Might be, but a good education is worth a little inconvenience. Howsomever, we ain't got enough teachers to go around on that system, so we'll build us some rooms, and then we can set 20 kids on this imaginary, hypothetical log, and the best teacher we can find on the other end.
And just what style of architecture do you have in mind, Mr. Reynolds?
That, young man, is up to you. That's your department. But I aim it'll be something I'll like when we get through.
I think I've got the idea. You don't care very much what it is, as long as you like it.
That would be a way of stating it, Mr. Norton. But I have an idea we'll see eye to eye on things. That's why I'm talking to you.
And if we don't?
I can be convinced. If a buddy can make me think I'm wrong.
Well, that's fair enough, David.
Does the name East Haddam mean anything to you two young people?
You mean here in Connecticut?
Yeah, up on the Connecticut River.
Yes. David, we drove through there one day this spring.
Yes, I remember. We did.
The road bears left up over the hill?
Yeah, we stopped there and filled up with gas.
Did you notice the little red schoolhouse back in the fields on the edge of the bluff?
As a matter of fact, being an architect, I did notice it. A low sweeping roof. Looked like it had been built in the 18th century.
That's right. You didn't go up and look at it?
No, we were in a hurry to get back home.
That's too bad. And you didn't see the sign up there on the side of it?
No, we didn't. But I hardly think the style of architecture could be adapted to the building that you have in mind for Eastbrook.
Looked like a one-room schoolhouse.
Every schoolhouse is a one-room schoolhouse. I ain't talking about styles of architecture. I'm talking about building a school.
I think I'm beginning to follow you, Mr. Reynolds.
But, Mr. Reynolds, when my son goes to school, I want him to have all the advantages that we've accumulated through the years.
He'll have 'em, Mrs. Norton, but what George Reynolds is worrying about is that we don't leave out any of the virtues and advantages that don't appear on the surface.
But I still don't see what the connection is between a one-room red schoolhouse and this big new school you're thinking about.
Let Mr. Reynolds go on, Claudia. I think he has something in the back of his mind he wants to say.
Out of that little red schoolhouse, Mrs. Norton, for close to 200 years, a lot of fine people came, both in front of the teacher's desk and from behind it.
But not because it was a one-room red schoolhouse.
No, but I know what Mr. Reynolds means. It was an idea and an ideal of education.
Yeah, that little schoolhouse was a burning torch in the wilderness. It was the core and the heart of the community. It stood for equal opportunity and freedom and a way of life. And it taught those things that were worth dying for to get and to keep.
You're still talking about just that little red schoolhouse?
Yes, ma'am. It's too bad you and Mr. Norton didn't have climbed that hill and looked at that schoolhouse. You know what you would have seen on the sign beside the door?
What would we have seen, Mr. Reynolds?
The sign says, "In this building, in the years just before the Revolutionary War, Nathan Hale taught school."
Nathan Hale? I've always thought of him as a story in a history book. Not flesh and blood. A neighbor, almost. In a little schoolhouse just a little way away in East Haddam.
And he taught well, ma'am. Yes, he taught some lessons worth learning and remembering. Down the hill from the schoolhouse is a graveyard. In it there's graves for a lot of men who studied at those lessons, went out and died so that other men might not lose the chance to learn them, too. Yes, ma'am. Lessons that men will die for is pretty important lessons to teach.
But, Mr. Reynolds, buildings, just buildings won't do that for men.
Maybe not. But what goes into buildings will. The individuals and the communities that get together and build their schools, what their schools mean to them. That's where the lesson begins. And I aim for we shouldn't leave that out of our new school.
I think I see what you mean.
We got us an honor roll here in front of the school with a lot of gold stars. Too many gold stars. Read the names, Mrs. Norton.
Arnold, Benjamin.
His people descended from the traitor. Guess that debt's paid.
Babcock, Peter.
His people's got their farm up about 2 miles from you.
Canzoni, Anthony.
His father works for the railroad.
Malawaski, Eugene.
He lived just 2 farms below you. Went to school in a little one-room schoolhouse on the river road.
Roschmeyer, Hans.
Good boy. They ran a little store on a farm. Father hardly speaks English. Mother doesn't speak it at all. Good people. I guess you'd say they're good Americans, too.
Reynolds, George. Mr. Reynolds. Your son?
Yes, Georgie. He was a good boy, too.
I see what you mean, Mr. Reynolds, but it's not easy to build the things you've been talking about with stone and mortar.
You do your part. You make it an honest building, simple and honest, and set it on the ground like it belonged there and meant to stay there come hell or high water.
I'll try.
You do that, and the community and all of us will try to do the rest. Yes, we'll do our share, and we'll make some fine citizens.
I'd like to have a share in this undertaking.
Well, ma'am, you're just bulging over with your share. Another kid to bring up in a fine town and a fine country.
I'd like to do more.
We'll put you in the Parent Teachers Association.
I guess I can almost qualify.
You'll qualify before the next meeting. I don't know nothing about human nature or expectant mothers. Well, you got specifications of what we want, Mr. Norton. You draw us up some plans and call me.
I'll try to make the kind of a school you want, Mr. Reynolds.
He's a fine man, Mr. Reynolds. David, this is a fine town.
And a fine country.
It's a privilege to bring a child into it. I just don't hold with the pessimists and the disillusioned. People who say we've come to the end of the road. David, the road is just beginning.
Those gold stars on the honor roll. And the names be behind them that you were reading a few minutes ago. They say that sometimes you have to pay a pretty big price for walking that road.
Should we ever have to pay that price, David? Let's do our share to be sure that it will be worth it. And Mr. Reynolds looked at his son's name there and said, Georgie, he was a fine boy. He seemed sort of certain that it was worth it.
This is the season for graduation parties, for weddings, all sorts of festivities. And this is a good moment to suggest that Coca-Cola belongs at any party, formal or informal, indoors or out. When you think of hospitality, you think of Coca-Cola, because Coke makes people welcome anytime, any place. How's your supply? Hadn't you better get Coke today?
Fine young man, that David Norton. Fine young man.
Glad you like him, Mr. Reynolds.
He's going to build Eastbrook a fine schoolhouse. We're lucky to have him.
You bet you are.
Are the Nortons really pleased with living up in this part of the country?
Very pleased. They feel it's home, though there are still a great many surprises for them. On Monday, for instance, it suddenly occurs to Claudia that, Mr. Reynolds, do you lock your door at night?
Oh, I haven't. No, in 20 years.
And after Monday night, I don't think Claudia ever will again. Locking the front door brings too much trouble.
Locking the door brings trouble. That's a new one, so I'll be around Monday. So long, Mr. King.
So long, Mr. Reynolds.
June 25th, 1948, Claudia on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Would you thank this station and support their advertisers? It's their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite station. And don't forget, if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. You can hear all of our shows at my webpage, classicradio.stream. You can learn more about Classic Radio Theater collecting. You'd even buy me a copy there, and if you do that, it'll not only buy me a Dr. Pepper, but also help us buy some new great radio shows that are still being found and restored to this day. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.
Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node. Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic Radio Theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Cold War crime drama. Dana Andrews starring in an episode of I Was a Communist with the FBI. This goes back to June 25th, 1952. The episode entitled A Riot Made to Order.
I was a communist for the FBI.
Starring Dana Andrews in an exciting tale of danger and espionage. I was a communist for the FBI. You are about to hear a strange story. Names, dates, and places are, for obvious reasons, fictional. But many of these incidents are based on the actual experiences of Matt Cvetic, who for 9 fantastic years lived as a communist for the FBI. Here is our star, Dana Andrews, as Matt Cvetic.
I've heard people call them crackpots, harmless crackpots. They were speaking of the members of the Communist Party in this country. I was one of those communists for 9 years. I reported their conspiracy against the United States from within. Crackpots? Like spiders spinning webs. Harmless? Like tigers stalking their prey. Here's just part of the story.
Now, here is Dana Andrews as Matt Cvetic, undercover man. this story from his confidential file is marked A Riot Made to Order.
Hello?
Matt Cvetic.
Speaking.
Anton Drexel.
Yes?
You sound surprised. You were told that I would contact you.
Well, that's right. It's just that here at work this time of day,
I'm at the Regent Hotel, room 406. I have matters to discuss with him.
When?
Right now.
That's how you received your orders in the Communist Party. Anytime, anywhere. And you obeyed to the letter, right now. I got up from my desk, and there were a dozen pair of eyes watching me. Communist eyes. Some I had put in this department of the United States Employment Service myself. But I knew there were others, watching, reporting. Had I shown any aggravation, any irritation, Drexel would have known about it immediately. I walked out with a smile, the perfect, obedient slave on the way to his master. Anton Drexel, small but muscular, intelligent, dark-featured. He had come from New York, a high party functionary. He didn't bother shaking hands. He came right to the point.
Comrade Cvetic.
Comrade Drexel.
You are satisfied that I am Drexel?
I'm satisfied.
You've never seen me before? You are too easily satisfied.
Comrade Adams told me you would contact me. You did. That's good enough for me. The party isn't in the habit of making mistakes like that.
Neither is the FBI.
What do you want me to do, comrade? Throw you on the floor? Search you? Check your fingerprints? Wait for word from Moscow? What do you want?
You have a temper, Comrade Cvetic.
I don't like talk about the FBI.
You agree that we must be as careful as they are?
Any party member knows that. What mistake did I make?
You made none. I didn't accuse you of any.
I'm sorry. I was wrong.
Sit down, Comrade Cvetic.
Thanks.
What I have to say is of the greatest importance.
Go ahead.
Our leaders feel it's time for us to have publicity. Sympathetic publicity in the capitalistic newspapers of this country. Is that clear?
Yes, comrade.
A large meeting of the party members will be held in Liberty Hall 2 nights from now. It will be attended by the rank and file. Comrade Adams has the responsibility of filling the hall.
I see.
At a signal, the meeting will be raided by the pickets outside. There will be a riot. Comrade Grotzinov and a sound truck will set off the riot.
A question, comrade.
Yes.
We've had many such meetings before, and none was ever picketed. Where will they come from this time?
The Cargus Manufacturing Company nearby. Our comrades in the plant have done their work well. They cry, "Stop the commie rats" before they take over the country. Those stupid workers are filled with patriotism. They'll turn out by the hundreds. The riot cannot fail.
And after the riot, we blame the fascist police, the citizen Gestapo who interfered with our rights of free speech and free assembly.
Exactly. Our comrades become martyrs. Others will rally to our cause in sympathy.
Why do you tell me this, comrade? Everything is arranged. There's nothing for me.
Oh, on the contrary. Everything depends upon you. You are responsible for the boys of the Control Commission, Comrade Cvetic. They will mingle with the pickets, inciting them. At the signal, they will lead them into the hall. This riot cannot fail.
But our own comrades in the hall, unarmed, they might be killed.
Should anything so unfortunate occur, it will be to their glory to die serving the party. You are under orders, Comrade Cvetic.
I shall execute my orders, Comrade Drexel. Anything more?
You'll have help in your assignment. Comrade Franz will assist you.
I don't need any help for this. I've done it before by myself, and besides, I don't
Do you object, Comrade?
I'm sorry, Comrade. The party knows best. Will that be all?
I shall be at that meeting. Good day, Comrade Cvetic.
That was all. Just arranged for several hundred human beings to have their skulls cracked, their teeth knocked out. It was like sending invitations for a banquet of death. I walked down the hotel corridor from Drexel's room to the elevator. I had to get to a phone, call my FBI contact.
Hello, Comrade Cvetic. Remember me?
He seemed to come out of the woodwork, like a termite. Otto Franz, my assistant. Had I protested too much at the meeting with Drexel? Then it hit me. Otto Franz had been arranged for before the meeting. Why? I didn't need any help on this job, and they knew it. But what else did they know? And what was Otto Franz? A tail or a hatchet man? Hello, Otto.
Comrade Otto to you, Cvetic.
Where did you come from, comrade?
It doesn't matter. Let's go to work, huh?
Sure. What do we do first?
That's up to you. I just go along and do whatever you say.
I'm going out to see my mother.
You can see her tonight when you go home.
Look, comrade, you can follow me wherever I go. Those are your orders. But you're not telling me where I can go. Those are my orders. Otto Franz, party liner, faithful hound. The crack of the whip was all he understood. Nothing would pry him from my side. He had his orders, and so had I. We took a cab, and I gave the driver an address.
Did you move to a new place, comrade?
I'm going to see my doctor first.
Something wrong?
My stomach's been upset lately.
Maybe you're nervous.
Maybe.
I got some powders I take for my stomach. Got them right with me. How about some?
I'm paying the doctor. I'll do what he says.
Just wanted to save you some money, that's all.
Thanks. He stayed with me like a headache, right into the doctor's waiting room. When the doctor was ready to see me, I knew he wanted to follow, but he didn't quite have the nerve. I told Doc I wanted to find out how my mother was, and he told me in 2 words. Not good. I asked if I could use his phone. He nodded and went into his laboratory. So far, I was getting all the breaks.
Miller speaking.
Randy Fletcher.
Go ahead, Matt.
They're staging a riot at Liberty Hall day after tomorrow. Several hundred party followers in the hall, and that many pickets or more outside. On signal, the pickets raid the meeting.
Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead. It's up to you fellows now. You've got to stop this thing.
We can't move in on anything like this, Matt. I'm afraid you'll have to carry the ball on this one.
Look, I've got a tail on me right now. Everything's been set. What do you expect me to do?
I'm sorry, Matt.
But
this is your...
Yeah, I know. It's my baby. From the doctor's office, we went to my home. My mother's condition had me worried. Her heart had been weak for a long time. There was always the chance that she might die, still believing that I was a real communist. If my brother Tip was home, there would be real trouble, especially when he saw Otto. He hated me, but he hated my commie friends even worse. Tip wasn't there. I almost felt good. The little breaks were coming my way, but I needed a big one. Real big. Otto showed a rare streak of decency.
Your mother upstairs, comrade?
In bed.
I'll wait here in the parlor. You go up and see her. But don't take too long. We got work to do, remember?
I remember, comrade.
Ma?
Mom.
Oh, Matt, you all right?
Sure, Mom. I'm great. But what's this I hear about you?
Oh, with me is nothing. Just a little tired. You the one I worry about, Matt.
There's nothing to worry about. I'm doing fine. Just look at me.
Oh, you are in trouble, Matt. The government, Matt. Those men from Washington. The FBI.
Yes?
They're after you, I know.
Oh, Mom, you're all wrong. Won't you listen to me?
Oh, all the time I pray for you, my boy. That God should make you give up what you are doing against the government of America.
But, Mom, can't you see...
Promise me, Matt. So little I ever ask from you.
I can't, Mom. What? Are you all right?
It don't matter no more. How can I be all right when against the United States one of my boys is working?
Look, Mom, I gotta run along now. Next time, I want to see you up and around and baking a cake, you hear?
Still, I pray for you, Matt, that God should take care of you. You are still my boy, and the mother can't forget.
June 25th, 1952, I Was a Communist for the FBI on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of I Was a Communist for the FBI, June 25th, 1952.
Now back to Dana Andrews, starring as Matt Cvetic in I Was a Communist for the FBI, and the second act of our story.
Otto stayed with me the next 2 days. He never let me out of his sight. We took a hotel room because I told him my mother was too ill and I didn't want to bother her at home. Why was I given this insignificant job and a guard? Did they suspect I might sabotage their riot if I had a chance? In 2 days, I hadn't been able to think of a single plan. And then the phone rang. That's the phone, comrade.
It's for you.
You amaze me, Comrade Franz. You must be psychic.
Answer it.
Yes?
Comrade Cvetic.
Speaking, Comrade Drexel.
The meeting is tonight.
I know.
You have done your work?
There was nothing to be done until this afternoon.
You will see to it?
Certainly.
Let me talk to Comrade Franz.
One moment. He wants to talk to you, comrade.
Hello? Yes. Yes. No, nothing like that. Yes.
Drexel knew where to call. I hadn't told him, and Otto was with me every moment. Were they watching both of us? Or had Otto somehow given me the slip? I shuddered. One mistake was all you ever made in a spot like this. Your first and last. He was watching me, still talking at the phone.
Yes, comrade. Right.
He sat there, staring at me, his face a complete blank. Other comrades had been pushed from hotel windows. The papers called it suicide, and the public believed the papers. I started toward the door. It's time to round up the boys for tonight, comrade. Comrade Drexel seemed a little worried that I'd not done it before this.
I know.
Well, are you coming, or do you stay here?
I got my orders, comrade. I go with you.
The goon squad I picked for this job was just like all the others, maybe a little more so. Muscle men. Powerful guys. And deadly. We met them in the back room of a cheap restaurant. 24 of them. Maybe a few more. Okay, comrades. Let's have it quiet. You'll gather tonight at 8 o'clock in the street in front of Liberty Hall. Pickets from the Cargus Company will be on hand before you get there. Wear your regular street clothes so as to look just like the other pickets. Mix with them, but stay away from each other. And get this, no guns. I'm going to say that again. No guns. You can use brass knucks, lead pipe and a newspaper, or saps. You've got plenty to work with, but no guns. A comrade in a sound truck will be yelling for a peaceful picketing with no violence. It's your job to make the pickets forget him and raid the meeting and start the riot. Okay, that's all.
Nice work, comrade.
Thanks.
Comrade Drexel will be pleased.
Everything that night went according to schedule. It always does when the commies are behind it. They're thorough. They don't miss a trick. plans are laid days ahead. You hope for a slip-up, but you never get your wish. When we got to Liberty Hall, the street out front was alive with pickets. They were angry, but not looking for trouble yet.
Everything goes well, Comrade Cvetic.
Yeah, everything's great.
There are plenty here to cause serious trouble.
That was the idea, wasn't it?
Of course. You should be happy, comrade.
I'm happy.
Remember, boys, this is a peaceful picketing. We want law and order. Let's have no violence. This is a protest against those commies inside. This is the United States, where we do everything by ballot. Keep it peaceful, boys. Keep walking around. Let's make it legal.
Comrade Kratzinov is doing his work well.
Yeah. Have you seen any of our goons caught around?
Several. There's one.
Talking to that picket. Yeah, I see him. Well, there's another one buttonholing a couple of guys. They're here and they're working.
It is good, Comrade Cvetic.
Yeah. Let's go in the hall.
Why?
There's nothing more to do here. It's just a question of time. Maybe we can help in there.
As you say, comrade.
Inside the hall, everything was proceeding according to schedule. There wasn't an empty chair in the place. It was like a sheep pen, with Comrade Adams, the ringleader, on the stage leading them to slaughter.
And there you have an example, comrades, of this freedom America boasts. Right outside these doors, a mob of pickets, the fascist police of the United States, are protesting our right of free assembly. That's why we are here tonight, to protest this wanton usurpation of our rights, to demand what our forefathers...
The party line, the same old hogwash. And they believed every word of it. Then I heard the crowd outside getting nastier. It was almost time for my goons to lead them in. I began to sweat. There must be something I could do. There must. And then a wild idea hit me. I turned to Otto. Comrade France, lock the front doors.
Are you crazy?
Do what I say.
But why?
You sap. If a mob walks in through an open door, they're liable to start talking things over. Make them break down a door and there's no talk, just violence.
That's a smart idea, comrade. I'll do it.
Locking the doors was just a stall for time. I wanted to get at the automatic sprinkling system, backstage. I got there just in time to meet Drexel and Adams and the rest of the big shots on their way out the back door. They weren't risking their skins.
Congratulations, Comrade Cvetic. You've done your work well. We shall meet in my hotel room as soon as this is over. Comrade Adams and I go now.
Come along, Cvetic. We've set the fuse, now let her blow.
I'll wait for Comrade France. He's out front.
Good. Make it soon.
From June 25th, 1952, I Was a Communist for the FBI on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll hear the conclusion, along with the start of a brand new Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, following these important words from your favorite radio station. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of I Was the Communist for the FBI, a riot made to order from June 25th, 1952.
I was standing right next to a wall ladder. It led up into the rafters, and from there I could reach one of the valves of the sprinkling system and melt off the protective wax cap. I started up the ladder, and I saw Otto coming back. I jumped down. He hadn't seen me.
Your idea works, comrade. Listen to them. They're like wild beasts outside.
Good work, comrade. When those doors break, hundreds will be hurt. He turned and looked out at the hall. I gave him the heel of my hand at the base of his neck. He went down in a heap and stayed there. I shinned up the ladder and held my lighter under the valve. No one saw me. The commies inside were panicked. They didn't know what to do next. The pickets were stopped at the door, but it wouldn't be for long. I heard the door go. I heard the pickets crash through. I had to stop this somehow. Lives depended on it. I broke out into a sweat. Would that valve never melt? I held the flame closer. And then the valve melted. The water rushed through the pipes and it rained all over the hall. A hard, cooling, steady rain that could put out fires. A rain that could put out a riot. I came down the ladder. Otto was still on the floor. The commies had found the back exit. They were pouring out like drowned rats. The pickets were backing out the front door. They didn't want any part of that flood. The riot had come a cropper. Comrade Drexel was waiting for me in his hotel room, but I had to make one stop before that, a crummy little gem on Denton Street. I knew the owner, Mac, a hulking, punch-drunk ex-pug. He knew me slightly. He never asked questions. When you can't think anymore, there's nothing to ask about. Listen, Mac, I haven't got time to argue. It's a matter of life and death. I want you to go over my face, and go over it good.
With gloves, huh?
No gloves. Bare fists. I gotta look like I was really beat up.
Blood, too?
Yeah. Everything I'd get if 4 or 5 guys jumped me.
It might hurt you.
I told you this is a matter of life or death. Now go ahead.
Well, okay. Just as a favor. No hard feelings.
No hard feelings. Oh. When Mac began to blur, I knew I had enough. He helped me to the door, and I staggered into the night.
Come in.
Cvetic. There he is. He slugged me and turned on the water.
Silence. What happened, comrade?
They slugged Franz first, and they jumped me. I fought them until I passed out.
Who were they?
5 of them. I never saw them before.
Pickets?
Maybe. None of ours, though.
They turned on the water?
I don't know. I guess so. It was out cold.
I tell you, the only guy around me when I got slugged was Cvetic. He turned on the water.
And then beat myself to a pulp? Is that it, comrade?
Unfortunately, Comrade Cvetic, suspicion points to you.
Okay, so I slugged Otto. I turned on the water, then I beat myself unconscious. If that's the way you want it, that's the way it is. You're acting as a control commission. Okay. I confess everything. Let's get this over with.
I've remarked before, Cvetic, your violent temper.
Why not? I've done everything I could to make this job a success. And then I'm questioned like a dirty, double-crossing traitor. In the name of the party. What more do you want from me?
Take it easy, Cvetic.
Sure, I'll take it easy.
You need a doctor's care, Comrade Cvetic. I suggest that you go immediately. The story seems true. Your face is proof of that. But we shall investigate further.
Is that all, comrade?
That is all. For now.
I left the hotel, and I felt good inside, in spite of the pain. I had stopped the riot. They'd investigate further, but they wouldn't find anything. I was sure of that. I'd covered everything, and for a while, I was safe. I was safe to continue the double life. Safe to tread the dim line between darkness and light. Safe to walk alone.
June 25th, 1952, I was a communist for the FBI on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we start a brand new Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, this one entitled The Long Shot Matter. This goes back to June 25th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Welcome to Hollywood, Mr. Dollar. This is Darrell.
Darrell?
Jim Darrell. Darrell and Clark Insurance. We wrote up the Palm Quiz policy.
Oh, that Darrell. For a minute I thought maybe...
Yeah, everyone does. About the policy. Understand you're worried about it.
National Underwriters is. They asked me to take a look.
Come on over and help yourself. It's a simple enough policy. $100,000 coverage on both Dr. Carl Palmquist and his wife.
It's that double indemnity clause I'm interested in. Becomes effective the end of this week, doesn't it?
That's right. Why? What's wrong?
An anonymous letter sent to underwriters. Kind of hints that somebody's going to try to collect.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to National Underwriters Association, 1180 River Road, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the long shot matter. Expense account item 1, $174.90, airfare and incidentals to Hollywood, California. A good night's sleep at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and in the morning sunshine, Hartford's slush was only a clammy memory. Nobody walks in California, so when in Rome, item 2, $2 even, cab fare to Darrell and Clark Insurance Brokers. Beverly Hills, where else?
Come on in, Dollar. Won't be a minute. Grab a chair.
One look at the furnishings, and you knew a lot of insurance was sold here. It takes a flock of premiums to pay for the really good modern, the long, clean, functional stuff. Impressive. Jim Darrell was even more so, and I'd have bet that 90% of his policyholders were women. He seemed to be doing two things at once, shaving and keeping track of passers-by in the street outside. I watched him glance quickly out the window for the fifth time, smile happily, then make a check mark on a desk pad. I give up. What is it?
Electric shaver.
I mean the bit outside the window.
Oh, it's this year's version of counting license plates.
You playing alone?
With Clark, my partner. You see, he takes charcoal gray suits and I take Bermuda shorts. Based on strictly how many pass the window. The other side of the street doesn't count. Loser buys lunch.
Where's Clark?
Seeing a prospect. We play on the honor system.
Yeah. Mr. Darrell.
There, that's better. Yeah. Palm quiz policy, huh? You want to know about it?
Well, you sound reluctant.
It's delicate.
So is this letter.
Look into Palmquist policy. You may have to pay off soon. Nice corny touch there. Letters from a magazine pasted on to form the message.
Well, the style's a little old hat, but the meaning's clear enough. You want to fill me in?
Palmquist, Mr. Dollar. The last of one of our oldest families out here. Name, social position, money. They've got it all. That's why I'm not too impressed with this little, communique.
You were telling me about the family.
Palmquist's a doctor, an important one. Six-dish, to the manor born. Complete with iron gray hair and distinguished bearing. A, knows what he wants type of man. Has a tremendous practice and still finds time to go hunting about 2 months out of every year.
And his wife?
Invalid, confined to the house. A huge house, by the way, out near the beach. And there's a son, Eric, 25, who lives with them. That's the family.
About the policy, Darrell.
Simple enough. 100,000 straight coverage on both Dr. Palmquist and his wife.
And the beneficiaries?
Only one, the son, Eric.
For both?
For both. That's a pretty pointed grunt.
Why not? I was thinking of the double indemnity clause that'll be effective in a few days.
That's what I thought you were thinking.
Well, let me have a couple of addresses, will you? The house at the beach and Palmquist's office.
Sure. The office is only a few blocks from here. And, Dollar, please be tactful, will you? Those premiums, they're so lovely.
Well, the way to make sure they keep coming is to keep people healthy.
Yeah, I guess you have some... Hey, what do you know? Another one.
What?
Bermuda shorts.
Oh.
That puts me 3 up. Clark's going to scream like an eagle when he pays that lunch check. Today we eat at Romanoff's.
I walked the 4 or 5 blocks to Dr. Carl Palmquist's office. It was easy to find. You just look for the most expensive building in the most expensive part of Beverly Hills, or as the natives sometimes call it, Lootville. As I turned into the entrance, a young executive type brushed past me on the street. Suit? Charcoal gray. I hoped he wouldn't pass Darrell's window. Dr. Palmquist's office was all it should be. Tasteful, quietly lush, the kind of place that made you wonder why he didn't live right there. The nurse who came forward did nothing to destroy the thought. Blonde, complete with doe eyes, retrosé nose, and a figure that floated. Great medicine for the sick.
May I help you?
I'd like to see the doctor.
Do you have an appointment, Mr.
Dollar, Johnny Dollar. No, I haven't.
Dr. Palmquist isn't in right now.
Oh, what time will he be back?
Well, he has a 4:30 appointment.
Suppose I show at 5, then, Miss...
Lund. Steffi Lund.
Miss Lund. 5?
I can't promise anything, but you might try.
Oh, I will. I'll try like mad. Expense account item 3, $38 even. Deposit and first day's rental on a drive-it-yourself car. And driving it out along Sunset Boulevard was delightful. I had no trouble at all getting into the California spirit. I pretended that I was a movie producer going home to his starlet wife. I found the Palmquist house on a quiet dead-end street high on the Palisades overlooking the Pacific. Darrell was right. It was huge, a single-story farmhouse that seemed to ramble endlessly. Well, it was a long way to come for nothing. I walked around the side of the house. Nobody tried to stop me. I moved through an open breezeway and wished that somebody had, because suddenly I felt like an intruder. Because of the woman sitting in the wheelchair staring vacantly down at the swimming pool that sparkled in the sunlight. Because of the way she poured a drink from the bottle beside her without ever looking at it. Because of the way she held the glass as though she wanted you to believe it was sarsaparilla tea, not whiskey.
It isn't really medicine, you know. I only pretend that it is.
Yeah, sure. Look, I didn't mean to barge in like this. Mrs. Palmquist?
Victor says it's disgusting. Calls it a sign of weakness. Do you feel that way, young man?
Well, nobody does anything without a reason. My name is Dollar, Mrs. Palmquist, and, well, I'd like to talk to you for a little while, if you feel up to it.
Weakness. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's...
Very sorry. Victor wouldn't like that either. Would you mind wheeling me into the house, young man? I'm very tired.
Oh, yeah, sure thing. You just relax. She leaned back in the chair and closed her eyes. She wasn't sleeping, just somewhere off in thoughts of her own. I pushed the chair toward the house as gently as I could. It wasn't until we almost reached it that I realized we had an audience. A good-looking kid in his mid-20s watching us from a bedroom window. A kid who didn't want to be seen. The way he jumped back from the window told me that. It was getting pretty weird out. Inside the house, I wheeled Mrs. Palmquist into a large living room. Gently, patiently, I tried to get her to answer a few questions, but I got nowhere. She wasn't rude, just secretive, smiling, and very far away. I was wondering how to get out gracefully when...
I'm so very sorry. I'm afraid I haven't been very attentive, have I, Mr. Dollar?
Suddenly, just as clear and lucid as that, I looked around to see what had made this almost magical change, and he was standing just inside the room, the kid I'd seen watching from the window.
Eric, come here, dear. This is my son, Eric. I'm afraid I've forgotten where you told me you were from, Mr. Dollar.
My mother's been ill, Mr. Dollar. She's not supposed to be disturbed.
Oh, now, Eric.
Oh, I am sorry. I was just leaving.
Good. I'll show you the way out.
Oh.
Maybe that would be best. You'll come back again, Mr. Dollar, when I'm feeling better.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Please make it soon. I don't seem to keep very good track of time. Another sign of weakness, I suppose.
Well,
When you show Mr. Dollar out, please come back, Paul.
Oh, yes, Mother.
You're a good son, Paul.
This way, Mr. Dollar. What do you want here? You can see she isn't well.
Yeah. It didn't take you long to go from Eric to Paul, did it?
She is not insane. You hear, Mr. Dollar?
I didn't say she was. Now, why did she call you Paul?
Paul was my older brother. He died 3 years ago. That's part of why she's like she is. A small part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nobody's asking you to be. Just don't come back here.
I had plenty of time to kill before 5 o'clock, and a lot of things would have been pleasant. Sopping up the Malibu sun, watching the kids on the beach, you name it. But instead, I settled for a visit with an old friend, Lieutenant Barry, homicide. I wasn't just being social. Pretty sneaky, as a matter of fact. The anonymous note which underwriters had received intrigued Barry, and he promised to have it gone over by the police lab. At 5 on the dot, I was back in Dr. Palmquist's office.
Hi. You're a punctual sort of patient, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, I used to get gold stars for it at school.
Well, I'm afraid Dr. Palmquist doesn't get one. He called just a little while after you left this morning.
Oh?
Said to cancel all appointments for today, that he wouldn't be in. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so am I.
I would have called you, but I didn't know where to reach you.
Oh, sure, that's okay. What about tomorrow?
I can give you an appointment at 10. How's that?
I'll be here. Thanks.
Mr. Dollar, would you like to give me some information now?
Like what?
Medical history, previous illnesses, complaints, the usual thing. Saves time in the morning.
Well, why don't we wait till tomorrow, in case Dr. Palmquist decides to play hooky again? There's one nice thing about this job. You get around so much you learn to pick up local habits without even thinking about it. For instance, that evening I had a leisurely dinner, then took in an endless double feature. All without ever once getting out of my car. Drive-ins, you know. It was well after midnight when I got back to my hotel, feeling a kinship for bus drivers everywhere. I headed across the lobby, ran smack into Jim Darrell as I rounded the cigar stand.
Oh, Dollar, where have you been?
Well, hi, Darrell. Hey, who wound up paying for lunch?
Listen, I've been trying to get hold of you all night. Where were you?
Dinner, a movie, the wildlife, huh? Well, don't look that unhappy. I didn't do anything illegal.
Somebody did.
What? Hey, what is it, Darrell? What are you talking about?
Mrs. Palmquist. Dead. Shot to death a couple of hours ago.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's intriguing episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, variations on an old theme. You pays your money and you takes your choice. But no matter how you pick it, it comes out murder. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Tony Barrett. It is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
Oh, we didn't even get through the first episode of this 5-part Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, and we've already got a murder. This was from June 25th, 1956, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank this radio station to support their advertisers. It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite radio station. Do not forget that if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a show. You can hear all of our shows on demand through Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio. Just search for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Or even better, just go to my webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows. You can learn more about classic radio collecting. You can get all of our social media links. Contact me there, and you can also buy me a coffee if you're so inclined to help us, find some new shows, or even better yet, buy me a Dr. Pepper. That works that way. Thanks for listening. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.